The wheel, one of humanity's single greatest breakthroughs. For 10,000 years, this simple tool has redefined what's possible for human beings to achieve. It's led to almost every conceivable industry that serves our needs today. For anything that needs to physically move, you can put money on it that a wheel will be involved somewhere along the line. But what if those wheels can't move by themselves? What happens if specialist vehicles need to change location but can't be piloted there? Well, that's when you call in the experts, the men and women of abnormal load.
Hi, my name is Ep03. I am a truck driver and I started a transport company on my own in October 1983, and we grew the business up until where it is now with abnormal loads. The load that we have to move today is a mobile compactor. It's a very rare piece of equipment and specialized in many different ways.
The Rapid Impact Compactor, a 9-ton hydraulic hammer attached to a 45-ton excavator on tracks. The hammer is used on construction sites to increase the load-bearing capacity of soils. It drops between 50 and 60 times a minute, compacting the soil, solidifying loose and unstable ground so that it can carry the weight of foundations for big structures. In Johannesburg's northern suburbs, large-scale residential developments have meant that machinery like the compactor is in high demand, and it's people like Van Heerden's who are relied on to get them from place to place.
A machine weighing 70 tons on a tar road, you can imagine what it does without anything in between. It's a residential area, so we've got to make as less as possible impact on the roads, the gardens.
Unloading this 70-ton mega mover presents some challenges. The compactor's tracks can damage the tarred surface of the road, but the specialized low-bed hydraulic trailer can't traverse the muddy surface of the construction yard. In order to get the compactor loaded, it will be driven out through the front gates of the yard and then be supported by a moving set of rubber tires that will cushion its immense weight. Once onto the trailer, this weight will be widely distributed through the trailer's wheels.
Moving space is very limited. The most important factor with the abnormality is definitely the height. In the municipal areas, sometimes you get electric and telephone cables that are very low, so those are the things we've got to consider. The moment it leaves the actual site where it did the compaction, we put like old truck tires underneath the tracks of the machine to not damage any of the paving or pieces of tar or the curbs or anything involved where the machine has to travel. We put blocks to minimize the incline from the ground level to the level where the machine stands on top of the trailer. You've got to take it very slowly and evenly, not to damage your differentials or your gearboxes or your tires.
Vaatjie gaan reguit. Vaatjie gaan reguit.
With the compactor on board and balanced, it's time to take stock of the journey. Getting out of the built-up area of Melrose will take a cool head and immense skill. Firstly, Eddie will need to reverse the trailer up 3rd Avenue and back into the busy suburban Central Avenue. From there, he'll need to negotiate the narrow pass of a traffic circle before turning onto the busy Rivonia Road and then onto Corlett Drive. Oncoming traffic and tight angles make this a particularly tricky intersection to navigate. From there, the route opens up as Eddie will make his way along back roads through Edenvale and Boxburg. Arriving in Springs, he'll navigate to the Van Heerden's headquarters, where the compactor will be stored. Getting in through the narrow gates will present Eddie with his next significant challenge, with just centimetres to spare on either side. It's a grueling 3-hour journey that's going to need concentration and stamina to deliver.
Okay, Faitjie, ons is op pad, hoor.
The biggest test is to get out of a very narrow road that we can only go in forward and exit in reverse.
With a successful reverse out of 3rd Avenue, the load proceeds up Central Avenue. Up ahead, the first major obstacle, a busy intersection. Turning circles in built-up environments presents a unique challenge for abnormal load drivers. Getting 30 meters of cab and trailer around a sharp 90-degree bend is difficult at the best of times. Throw in obstructions like signage, traffic lights and other road users, and the whole task becomes that much more tricky and stressful. Getting stuck at a major intersection not only holds up the traffic, but it severely tests the patience of other drivers.
I'm always scared that we do warn traffic and other people that there's an abnormal load coming, but a lot of drivers does not always focus.
Laat die karre by jou verbygaan, Faitjie. Laat die karre by jou verbygaan, asseblief.
It was a little bit nerve-wracking because there was a lot of guys that did not focus on the abnormal load. They're busy with what they are busy with when they drive their own car and check themselves, but they don't check for you.
The busy intersection at the corner of Rivonia and Central Avenue awaits. Eddie takes the truck into oncoming traffic to make his turn, and a private security vehicle is suddenly caught coming head-on.
Stoot terug, Faitjie, en kom in die linkerbaan.
There's a lot of cars parked on the sides and there's no way and place where the cars can go. So you have to make sure you block the traffic. Otherwise, you damage the curbs, you damage your truck, your tires, and you jam the traffic as well.
The security vehicle and 2 pedestrians are caught in a turning circle. With nowhere to move, this could be make or break for the load.
It was nerve-wracking.
Eddie's pinpoint driving gets the front wheels through the turn.
We were relieved to get through that exit, which is very small.
Driving a big load on the open road has its perks. To have freedom of movement and the respect of other road users around you is something these drivers live for. But at the end of this journey lies Eddie's last significant challenge. Here on the outskirts of the industrial town of Springs lies Van Heerden's transport. The compactor will be stored here until it's needed again. But this narrow gate represents Eddie's last remaining challenge.
You need maybe a 3 or a 4 meter maneuvering space for your tractor to be able to move your trailer's wheels to miss the gate on the left-hand side.
We've all been on a seesaw at some point, right? Well, a seesaw is based on one of the simplest machines known to man, the lever. A lever's made up of a beam of some kind and a fulcrum or pivot point. Now with a seesaw, that pivot point is right in the middle. So when I push down a certain distance on this side, this end over here moves the exact same distance, just in the opposite direction. But if I move my pivot point along the beam, now when I push down over here, this end still moves in the opposite direction, but it moves much further than what I'm putting in over here. And that's the challenge that Eddie faces with his truck, where a small move near the cab results in a large move at the end of the trailer, which is why abnormal load drivers need to be so skilled, especially when operating in confined conditions. Eddie makes his approach towards the gates. Any miscalculation could leave the truck and its load stranded.
Maar nie net van my linker voorwiel hier op hierdie kant hoor.
Eddie is through with just centimetres to spare on each side. It's a huge sigh of relief for the whole team, with just the offload to go. With the storage yard's hard soil, the team are able to simply reverse the compactor off the trailer. For Eddie and his team, it's a job well done.
Every time you offload, then you're very relieved that everything went well and you offloaded it and all the challenges were met. But the moment you delivered that load, you're back looking for another one to do more tricky and more abnormal, wider or more heavier. So every time you offload, you're glad, but then you look for the challenge again the next time.
Construction is an industry we can all understand needs large equipment moved from place to place. But what about other industries? Entertainment, for example. But what kind of big load needs to be moved about here?
I'm Philip Nell of Performance Dynamics in SA Monster Trucks. They call me the guy with the big toys. I started about 16, 17 years back. After Performance Dynamics, we decided just to build them something bigger and meaner, what nobody got. And then we start building our own monster truck. From there, it's starting to become a business like everybody knows as SA Monster Trucks. And it's never big enough. We always try to go bigger, meaner, and something different. And trust me, children go ballistic about this.
We're on the outskirts of Tshwane, South Africa's capital city and home to the Swartkops Raceway. And it's here where South Africa's 4x4 motor show is taking place, where two of Philip's monster trucks are due to make an appearance. For the audience attending this show, taking a ride in a monster truck is an absolute highlight.
We do shows, we do car crashes, very mean jumps, flipping, rollovers, another adrenaline entertainment for the clients. It's all the time on edge, and that's what the people like.
Wandering through Philip's workshop's like being in a playground for an engineering mind. Every inch of this mechanical artist's studio is taken up by vehicles in some form or another. And it's exactly that gives Philip his first big challenge, navigating his custom-built trailer out of the yard so he can load up the two giant trucks.
Getting out of the yard is a trick. When it's a very close area, we have to turn to get a trailer when it's a very long trailer, and then to get it on the road.
It's a pretty extreme angle for any driver to negotiate, plus the added pressure of cars passing down this suburban slipway.
It's nerve-wracking, but you have to keep your concentration very wide. So it's not just in front driving. You have to check your mirrors all the time.
Philip is confident, but any traffic jam can slow him down. With busy Friday afternoon traffic building up, it's imperative he's not held up at any point. It's tight, but the wheels sneak through, and Philip's free to get into the adjacent parking lot, where he'll load up the two monster trucks.
At least that's a relief first. Got it on the road, we're ready, moving on.
To avoid any mishaps, the 6-ton Goliath will need to align its considerably sized wheels against the back of the trailer. A high-powered winch, in partnership with the power of the V12 engine, will guide the vehicle up the ramp and onto its resting place. Because of the maximum road safety width of the trailer, centimetres can be critical. So it's going to take a feat of concentration from both driver Pete and Philip and his team to guide this monster to safety.
Ek is Pieter Beer. Ek is 'n ou vriend van Philip. Ek is so 13 jaar wat ek en hy al vriende is. Ek is so 8 jaar saam met hom in die monstertrokke bedoenig. Dit is nogal 'n hele ervaring. Want as jy opgaan teen die ramps, en ek vir jou beloof, jy sien net die blou lig.
My role in the monster truck, especially when we load, is to make sure that the truck goes straight into the trailer and to make sure that the truck is tightened properly.
With time ticking, Goliath, the first vehicle, is lined up. The winch is attached and the team get ready to load.
The loaded truck is always a risk of pulling the vehicle skew. So if you just go a bit too much, you can flip it over.
Ja, Piet, jy ry, moenie ry nie. Wow. Jy moenie ry nie, jy moet net guide. Niks throttle nie, net idle. Gaan maar weer terug. Start maar weer.
Goliath stalls and won't start again.
Ag nee, hy's in park.
Delays are costing the team precious time as the busy Friday afternoon traffic behind them starts to build up.
You know, Murphy's Law is always something can happen. So you have to work out your time delay. You're allowed to move between 6 and 6 o'clock. Then it's dark, you're not allowed to be on a ride. Then you have to pull off and sleep over and go in the next morning.
The mechanical team is on the scene and have a solution.
Nalatigheid, die batteryterminaal was nie vas genoeg gewees nie.
Pete takes another crack at getting Goliath up the ramp and onto the trailer.
Piet, die kant toe. Pietie, net so. Kom, vat weg uit toe. Kom, move uit die pad uit. Kom. Kom so, na my toe. Kijk, kom. Liep hom.
Pete is up and the second truck follows suit. With a lesser height and a less volatile transmission, it's an easier task getting it loaded up and strapped in. With Friday afternoon traffic starting to build up on Sefako Machato Drive, the team need to get a shift on to deliver the load on time. But it's a journey that's likely to pitch up a few curveballs. Philip Nell and his team are getting ready to transport his 2 monster trucks to Swartkop's Raceway in time for them to feature at the annual 4x4 outdoor show. And with the rush hour traffic starting to build up on Tshwane's main roads, it's going to be a journey with some pressure. The monster truck cavalcade only has 23 kilometers to travel, but will face numerous driving challenges along the route. Philip will have to negotiate getting across the busy Sefako Machato Drive, then onto the M1 and R80 highways, before facing the biggest challenge of them all, negotiating the darkness and uncertainty of the Dasport tunnel. From there, it's a simpler drive through the industrial suburb of Laudium and onto the outskirts of Tshwane, before reaching Swartkop's Raceway, his destination.
To change the lanes between cars left and right, that's a nervous one, all the way to the port. Changed my lanes. Luckily, we went through that one. Now, for the big one, the tunnel.
Tshwane is a city on the easternmost tip of one of the oldest mountain ranges in the world, the Magaliesberg. These wave-shaped geographic features are interspersed throughout the city, and while there are numerous ways over them, Philip's shortest route to Swartkop's is right through them. This is known as the Dasport Tunnel, and poses Philip his greatest hurdle in getting the load delivered on time.
Visibility is very poor. But the problem is it's very narrow. There's a walking alley with a fence, and then you've got a middle lane and then cars from the front.
Philip has to ensure his wide load stays centered on the narrow lane. Here, darkness is his greatest challenge, as seeing the edges of his trailer becomes harder and harder the further he progresses through the tunnel.
My co-driver sitting next to me is actually guiding me and said, listen, come closer. I'm guiding on the right-hand side lane. But if a truck comes from the front, that's very close shape. It's like a 100mm gap between two of them. We just misses each other.
The welcome sight of the end of the tunnel grows ever larger, and Philip's task becomes easier. Swartkop's Raceway beckons, and for the team, it's a triumphant entry for one of the event's biggest drawcards.
Critical offloading is to make sure it doesn't go skew off. I need to get it all the way level, steady, down.
The final challenge is getting the trucks offloaded. With limited visibility, each truck is slowly winched back off the trailer. But driver Pete needs to be absolutely sure of his line.
Allemaal uit die pad uit. Check off, Peter.
If you go a bit to the left or the right, chances of flipping it is very good.
En jy sit bo in hierdie trok, jy kan nie onder jou sien.
Man, steek hom.
Goliath is off. Pete can't help but take it for a spin round the track.
It's a nice car. I also like to have one like this. But time goes on.
Dit is vir ons 'n plesier om mense te gaan entertain. Dis lekker. Ons geniet dit.
My passion is to build something unique for somebody you don't see every day on the road. I'm a motorsport guy all my life. That's my passion. I love it.
As we've seen, getting large vehicles with even larger wheels from place to place can be a momentous task. But how does that task differ when the vehicle you're moving doesn't actually have any wheels at all? The city of Cape Town, famous for its flat-topped mountain and beautiful coastline. It's also the working home of South Africa's second busiest port. The Victoria and Albert waterfront is a mecca for tourists and a regular stop-off for cruise ships and container vessels. From the large Asian fishing fleets to the oil tankers heading to West Africa, it's a busy hub that's operational 365 days a year. From crude oil coming in to fresh produce going out, this artery of economic activity brings prosperity to this city. But this harbour doesn't run itself. To get ships safely in and out, it needs helpers. Big ones. Weighing in at 240 tons, nearly 23 metres long and almost 8 metres wide, the 2208 Stand Tug is no pushover. This hard-working tugboat is central to the smooth workings of a harbour. Its powerful engine and unique ability to move backwards and sideways as well as forwards is vital to preventing harbourside traffic jams.
My name is Brent Sickle, and I'm the production manager for Damen Shipyards Cape Town. The 2208 Stand Tug is a modern sea-going tug which is used for harbour or coastal water operations, and she's normally used for towing or moving other vessels. And it's a proven design that has been with us for many years.
Damon designs them, builds them, and services them. But when it comes to getting them into the water, it's not as simple as it may seem. To launch, the vessel needs to be lowered from a specialized platform known as a synchro lift, situated over 4 kilometers away from the Damon shipyard at the V&A Waterfront's dry dock. An overland journey for the tugboat is inevitable, and it's time for the abnormal load experts to step in.
I'm Christopher van der Merwe, and I'm sales manager, specifically looking after coastal and also the shipyards. So therefore Damen is one of our bigger clients. Fortunately enough, we have done numerous loads or similar loads before. This one was a 240-ton load, so it varies in size, and therefore there's different application that goes with it.
This experience is vital in getting the load safely onboarded and moving. With loads this big and this heavy, there are numerous safety concerns at play.
The main thing is you need to treat each and every load as a separate entity almost. Never ever get too at ease, otherwise you will make mistakes and there will be accidents. And in these cases, accidents are fatal.
With boats of this size, anything can happen, anything can fail because of the weight. So it is important that we ensure that our staff are always safe and they're following the correct procedures, and that when the boat's being loaded, that she is secured correctly onto the trailer for safe passage to the sinker.
There's a large team of people working to make sure this load is accident-free. It's focused and detail-driven work.
We'll be doing the prep work on the 2208 vessel. We'll actually be jacking it to a height on her cradles, placing stools underneath it so that ALE can actually come in with their trailer and position her underneath. Then she'll be secured on the trailer for the move tomorrow.
The team faced the challenging task of getting the 240-ton tugboat safely secured onto the trailer. First, 4 hydraulic jacks are fixed into position to lift the load off its supports to allow the trailer access. The boat's uneven distribution of weight and unique shape means this is a delicate balancing act. The jacks are raised incrementally so the team can slide wooden supports underneath. It takes several hours to raise the tug high enough for the trailer, but it's time well spent to ensure the lift is completed safely.
My name is Luke Stefan, and I'm the rigging supervisor for ALE Heavy Lift. It involves overseeing large lifts, large installations, and moves like this.
The team get to work, and it's time to bring in the 60-ton jacks.
So for this one, we used our 60-ton jacks, which is 4 of them, obviously enough to jack up this load. And that's the operation that we do beforehand to make sure that the load is in the air in order for us to allow to move the trailer underneath. And from there, we drop the jacks down so that we are on the trailer, remove the jacks, and then we are free to, obviously after we have done all our lashing and change and everything, we are free to move.
These hydraulic jacks provide a sturdy and reliable method for lifting large objects like this tugboat. But the jacks can only raise by a relatively small amount compared to the height that's required for the tugboat to be lifted so that the specialized trailer can be positioned underneath. So to achieve this height using these jacks, the team used a technique known as a bird box, which means simply that the jack performs its first lift, up it goes. The team then slide in timber supports underneath. The jack and the tugboat on top of that then sits on those supports and uses that as a platform for its next lift. It goes up. 2 more supports are slid in underneath, only this time they go in at an angle that's perpendicular to the level under it. The jack then uses that level for its next lift, and this process continues until that desired height is reached. But what's critical about this bird box technique is that the timbers need to be meticulously placed so that the weight of the tugboat pushing down is evenly distributed and that the jacks have a sturdy platform to lift from. Because we've all played Jenga and we know what can happen to a stack of timbers if it becomes unstable. The bird boxes are built and Luke raises the jacks. But one of the bird boxes has an issue, and Luke's not happy with the weight distribution. This is costing the team valuable time.
A slight delay can tick over and have a ripple effect on the whole logistics.
Okay, boys, just keep it steady. How long? Just repositioning, yep. Just repositioning. Let's keep that lip straight, please. Left. Left, steady. Keep those eyes on the pedestal, please.
After repositioning, the team attempt another raise. This time, the timber's evenly spaced and the weight holds.
Finally, the team have reached the height they need and the trailer moves into position. Getting it loaded will require some skillful driving.
My name is Mark Khan, I'm a transport supervisor.
One of those things you don't want to think about, but catastrophically, something could fail, a step could fail. You could have the boat actually topple off the trailer if it's not managed correctly.
Finally, the onload is complete and the team step down to wait for morning.
Obviously, we try to set up the evening before because we have an arrangement with the port that we move when the traffic is low. So preferably before or as close to the sunrise. We get our port security in place because we can't move the load without port security. We have our own escorts and all our operators, everyone in place.
It's 5:30 a.m. The traffic escorts are on board and the team are ready to get moving. The team faces considerable pressure at the outset of the route. Leaving the safety of the Damon shipyard requires the careful maneuver of the 240-ton load down a small step. It then faces a sharp right turn onto a public road with a very narrow clearance from a fence. Accompanied by traffic escorts, the load will then travel on the remote-controlled trailer down Duncan Road. The distance to the dry dock is only 4 kilometers, but our heavy load will be traveling at walking speed and will have to navigate through a gated construction yard to access the busy intersection by 7 a.m. before traffic has built up. Once through this intersection, the load then needs to pilot between 2 ships at the dry dock to reach its pre-approved parking bay. From here, it will be launched at the appointed time.
The journey faces multiple challenges, with everything needing to run like clockwork. Each task has a set time limit to be completed, and any delays could affect the entire operation.
The boat is ready to leave the safety of the shipyard along a sloped surface. And the unique height and weight constraints of this load make this one of the most stressful parts of the whole journey for Mark, who will pilot the vehicle using a very particular mode of transport.
This trailer specifically is a SPT, which is a self-propelled trailer. And for that reason, it doesn't need a tractor to pull it. It's got the power pack at the back, and that then allows the operator to basically use a remote control to move the load.
Keep it straight. I need eyes on that fence as well, eh? Who's on it?
If you don't do your correct suspension setup, your trailer can sink to the one side and you can lose a load because you're going down a ramp. So your half of your center of your trailer can bottom out. So your chassis of the trailer can touch the ground and you can damage it.
Mark begins to pilot the load down the ramp. His main constraint is the perimeter fence, a tight angle to negotiate. The first attempt halts. There's not enough room to get round the fence. Mark will need to reverse to get his angle just right. Again, the angle of the load isn't quite right. The team is on a tight deadline. They have to reach the intersection before 7 a.m. or they won't be allowed to cross over into the dry dock. It's the third attempt, and everything is riding on this. The boat is through, and Mark is visibly relieved. The team has valuable time to make up, to ensure that they get through the next obstacle on time. And piloting the boat along the narrow streets has its own challenges.
Traffic is a major problem, especially early in the morning. So we have to plan with the City of Cape Town and the Metro Police. Space is going to be pretty tight, so we're going to have to keep our eyes peeled more, especially going around corners and all of that.
Once on the road, the tension eases up, but not for Mark. He's focused on making sure he keeps the trailer level.
Eyes on the road, boys. You see anything, you let me know. All clear. How are we looking on that intersection? Traffic escort, head on, take a look. All clear, front left. Looking good, back right. What a morning. Steady on, we have eyes on the driveway. Clearance on overhead light is good. That's what I want to hear. All clear, back right. How's my bottom over that speed bump? Looks good, Mark. Over.
It's the same as you driving, but you know that you don't have a steering wheel, you just have a remote. Steering and then leveling the trailer. It's all regarding with communication. There's not good communication, you're not sure what can happen.
While Mark pilots the load from behind, the rest of the team keep a keen lookout for complications.
An extra set of eyes is always better because you might see something that he doesn't.
The first 3 kilometers have gone smoothly. The team are on schedule with 10 minutes to go before their 7 a.m. deadline. But up ahead lies the gate through the Port Authority construction area, and it's locked.
It's a small problem, but with big ramifications. This intersection is a very busy thoroughfare, and the agreement is they need to be through by 7 a.m. It's now 6:55.
Waiting for the master key to come, and then we'll be on our way.
The key is, what we have heard is that there's a lot of changing contractors on this side, and each contractor, typically when they finish up, they'll just put on a chain and put on a lock. And then for some reason, Transnet doesn't end up with a copy of that key, and that can cause a very big delay.
Eventually, it's good old-fashioned bolt cutters to the rescue.
Eyes. Right, looking good. Left, you've got about half a meter on the left. Mano? Steady on. How much? You've got a full length to play with here. Back right, looking good, Mark. Okay, keep it coming. Clear on the right. Left, looking good, yeah, Mark.
The trailer makes its way through the shortcut with a minute to spare. The tugboat is about to cross over the intersection into the dry dock. But from here, the team can already see a potential problem. And it's all down to parking.
Oh, there's just another vessel in our parking bay.
Damon's slot in the dry dock has been booked for several weeks, but it seems the other boat owners aren't ready or able to leave.
It's about them deploying the team and taking it back again. So I think let's put it up because the news guy maybe go and measure it to see if we can get around it. Because it's actually on the side.
We'll ask Bob now when
The decision is made to clear some space outside the gates as a holding area for the tugboat. It's a tight squeeze, with passing traffic a little too close to comfort for our team, especially since their progress is out of their hands. But the tension doesn't let up. Mark still has to pilot the tug through this narrow gate.
Steady on, steady on. Elevation looking good, yeah? Front right. Front right has enough space. Left. You've got room, you've got room.
we need to be in this lane, and this is not ready yet, so that's also a synchronous responsibility to move this vessel forward. Once they have moved this vessel forward, they first need to remove all the scaffolding, and then we can move in and offload. Using the same operation that we onloaded, basically, we can then offload onto the rails in order for Darman to move out.
But first, they need to get rid of Olga. She's been having some work done and created so much rust and residue, it seems she's been rooted to her tracks. And until she moves, none of the others can.
A tractor is summoned to tow the gigantic vessel away. But will its pulling power be enough to overcome that rust? The tractor's wheels are sliding as its engine strains against the weight of the ship. The ALE team are getting nervous, and the Synchrolift team are going to need much more pulling power. A second tractor is tied to the first. Will this make the difference? Second engine kicks in and Olga is on the move. For the ALE team, it's a big sigh of relief. Work can continue. The final task for the team is to move the tugboat from its parking bay in the dry dock across to the Synchrolift, which will lower the boat into the water. To do this, the load is jacked up, the self-propelled trailer is removed, and then jacked down onto movable supports called bogies. A transfer carriage is moved over to the parking bay, and a tractor will push the tugboat on its bogies onto the transfer carriage and along its tracks. Once it reaches the Synchrolift, the tractor disengages and the platform is lowered into the water via steel wire motor-driven winches. It's here that the tugboat is finally ready to begin its life as a commissioned vessel.
Like the onload, the team need to ensure the tugboat is balanced to prevent a dry land capsize. Nothing but total and sustained concentration will do.
Once it reaches the Synchrolift, the tractor disengages and the platform is lowered into the water via steel wire motor-driven winches. It's here that the tugboat is finally ready to begin its life as a commissioned vessel.
I'd say it's very rewarding because you can stand back from a job that's lasted maybe 2 months on a project and you can say, wow, you know, we've done some really good teamwork together.
This is, for me, it's like playing with big Lego. Because at the end of the day, you need to put everything together and you need to make sure that each and every piece fits into each other. And if they don't, you will have problems. But I think that's one of the bigger things. And then also the fact that each job has got its own constraints, its own challenges, its own exciting opportunities. So, and our company loves to be creative with regards to a solution in order to also save the customer on their costs. So I think that's what excites me, that each job is something completely new and different.
I love seeing something being taken from concept, seeing the sketch on a piece of paper and discussing that with our design team, looking at all the technical aspects that go along with it and the challenges especially, and then seeing it unfold in the next few months to the actual vessel or mega structure that we now see. for me, that is amazing.
This tugboat is a vital cog in the day-to-day running of ports and harbours around the world. So the next time you turn on your lights, or cook dinner, or power up your television, keep in mind what it takes to make that happen. The crucial work of the men and women behind abnormal loads.
Loads that help build our homes, our offices, our schools. Loads that thrill and entertain. Loads that ultimately improve all of our lives. I'm Rob Bell, and this is the world of abnormal load.